This is the Your BIPOC Writing Coach podcast, and I'm your BIPOC writing coach, Lori L. Tharps. I'm a journalist and a former tenured college professor who moved to the south of Spain so I could live a global literary life. I'm also an award-winning author of both fiction and nonfiction who believes in the transformative power of a story well told. I created this podcast because I want to help as many BIPOC writers as possible get their stories out of their heads and into the world. Are you ready? Let's go. Hello, wordsmiths, storytellers, and scribes. This is the Your Famous Author Era season of the podcast, where we are talking about how to promote your work as writers, building an author platform, and finding the fans who will buy, read, and support your work over time. On today's episode, we're going to learn how to successfully launch a debut poetry collection. We're going to teach you how to launch it so well that you leave your own publisher flabbergasted and at a loss for words. My guest on the show is Nadia Alexis. Nadia Alexis is a poet, writer, and photographer born to Haitian immigrants in Harlem. She is the author of the hybrid poetry and photography collection Beyond the Watershed, which was a finalist for the 2022 Ghost Peach Press Prize. Nadia's honors include a Literary Arts Fellowship from the Mississippi Arts Commission and the Haitian Creatives Digital Awards Poet of the Year, among others. Her photography has been exhibited in the U.S., Cuba, and virtually at CCCADI. A fellow of the Callaloo Creative Writing Workshop and the Watering Hole, Nadia holds a PhD and an MFA from the University of Mississippi. During our conversation, Nadia reveals all of her secrets for successfully launching her debut poetry collection, Beyond the Watershed. And when I say successfully, I mean planning a 12-month book tour, getting her book into a second printing before it even hit store shelves, getting her book into libraries and bookstores all across the country, and the biggest win of all, you're not going to believe this for a poetry book, but it happened for Nadia, and you're going to have to listen to the episode to see where her book ended up. This conversation was super enlightening for me, and I guarantee you're going to hear some really good ideas that anyone can use and should use for getting their book into the hands of the right readers. You don't have to be a poet to use these ideas, resources, and strategies. All right, let's get into the interview. Welcome to the Your BIPOC Writing Coach podcast, Nadia Alexis.
Thank you for having me, Lori.
Well, I'm so happy that you're here. And, before I jump into all of my questions that I have for you, I always like to start by sharing how I know my guests. And you are a member of the Read, Write, and Create Sanctuary, which is the membership community for BIPOC women writers that I founded in 2023. And you were actually one of our earliest members. So I wanted to actually start by asking you first, why did you join the Sanctuary? And how does being part of writing communities play a part in your writing practice?
I joined the Sanctuary because I wanted to take my writing more seriously and to be in community with other writers. And I have projects that I'm working on. And so I figured that that would be something that could help me to thrive. Community has always been an important part of my writing practice. And so the Sanctuary has given me so much, from the co-writing events to the opportunity to be a speaker at a conference and all the things. So it's been really fruitful for my career. And I've also been able to participate as much as I am able to in different seasons.
So, as you know, this season of the podcast, I'm calling it the Embrace Your Famous Author Era season.
Oh, I love that.
Thank you. I love it too. I really want our listeners, who are mostly BIPOC writers, both emerging and seasoned, I really want them to have an opportunity to think about book promotion and not feel guilty about it or think that, we're supposed to be artists, we're supposed to be writers, we're not supposed to be thinking about the commercial aspect of this business, but it is a business. And we are writing to get published, to be read, and to get another book deal after the first one, right? So we do have to think about these things because they matter. And so I wanted to do this whole season talking to people who have been in the trenches and have figured out how to get their work out into the world. And knowing that every author is different. I mean, some authors are novelists, some people are working in nonfiction, memoir, poetry. They're all different. And so I was really impressed with watching you in the sanctuary, watching how you have gotten your debut poetry collection out into the world. And the book came out in March of 2025, and it is now October 2025. And as I've seen, you're still promoting that book. We went far beyond the typical 6 weeks, and then I'm done promoting. So before we get into the nitty gritty of how you planned your book tour, your book promotion, give us the elevator pitch for your book, Beyond the Watershed. Like, what is the book about? Who do you think should read it? Who will love the book? Yeah, just tell us a little bit about the book itself.
So, Beyond the Watershed is a hybrid collection of poetry and photography, tracing the journeys of a mother and daughter in terms of their experiences with gender-based violence and generational trauma. So their experiences with healing and survival. And so the photographs in the book are self-portraits. And it was really important for me to include that, given that the book does cover domestic violence. I wanted to suggest something about survival of Black women and girls. And so I wrote the book for people like me who look to poetry to see themselves or to see something in a new way, particularly as survivors or those who care about survivors. And so far, it has been reaching those folks, and it's been reaching a lot more folks too. So I really appreciate that and love that.
That's the beautiful thing. We don't even know who's going to be touched by our work or who's going to find something about themselves in the work. So, would you consider your poetry collection also a memoir? Do you call it that? Or is it a poetry memoir? Which I don't even know if that's a thing, but
Sometimes what I have seen on this journey is that sometimes people will include poetry books in like nonfiction award categories, which I think is really interesting because, yes, there are autobiographical poems in there, but there are things that we have to make up for the sake of the poem. And, you know, things that we say happen or images that we didn't actually see or whatever, but we have to create them. So, I don't consider it a memoir, but maybe it is memoir-esque in a way because, it is very much about my life and my mom and some friends. And so, no, it's not a memoir, but there's elements of that in it, I suppose. And it's very focused on a particular period of time, but not really. Like a lot of it is like college and then 20s adulthood. So I was much younger, those poems are thinking about, and even childhood. So I don't know, maybe.
we'll come back to that. The last thing about the book itself are the photographs. So, how bold were you, Nadia, to be like, excuse me, publisher, I have a poetry collection, but I'd also like you to put photographs in it. I've had people on this podcast. I've had this experience myself when I wrote Hair Story, where publishers were like, nah, no, photographs are too expensive. We don't like you that much or care that much about your book to spend the money to print photographs in the book. How did you convince a publisher, a poetry publisher, to say, yeah, we'll spend the money to make, and mind you, your cover is also gorgeous. Somebody really said, yeah, we're going to put money in the physicality of this book of poetry. So tell the people how you made that magic happen.
Well, I only submitted to publishers who seemed to be open to that or expressed that they were open to that. Or when I say seem to be, I looked at the kind of work that they published and how they show up online. There were publishers that said, don't send us any manuscript that have images. And there were publishers that I were interested in. And I thought I was actually a little salty about that because I'm like, we're in 20, whatever years it was that I was submitting them. I'm like, we're moving more towards that. So this is what my book is. So I just included it in my submission. And whoever was going to accept it, accepted it. I didn't include it after the fact. It was always in there. It just looked differently. And luckily, Kevin Carey Press was very excited about it. It also got a finalist for another publisher. So there are people that want to publish that work, and there are people that don't. But the ones that do, I think they're on the right side. They're like more up to speed. So, and, no shade to publishers that don't want to do that, that may not fit their aesthetic, but I feel like eventually they're going to do that. I think they are.
Well, I'm really hearing in your voice that you knew what you wanted for this book. And I think that's such a good point for people listening, not to, as my daughter's kindergarten teacher once said, not to dim your sparkle, not to write for an audience, for a publisher, or even for an agent's taste. Like, you have to create the book that you want. And it has to look like you want it to look. It has to sound like you want it to sound, so that you can then do what we're about to talk about, which is promote it for the rest of your life. If you don't love the book, it is really hard to spend months and years talking about it, which is what you're going to have to do. So let's jump into that part. You've established that you wrote this incredible book. What did you want for your book in terms of success? This is something I want all writers to be really cognizant of. What does success look like? Because it can look like bestseller lists. It can look like critical praise or prizes from prestigious organizations. It could look like lots of sales and lots of money in your pocket because of those sales. So what did success look like for you as you started to think about how you would market your book?
Success for me was that the book was going to sell well and end up in the hands that it was meant to. Sell well, I didn't have a specific number. I just wanted it to sell. And, I heard that authors, their books can go into another printing. So I wanted that to happen eventually. And that ended up happening on my publication date because that's how well I promoted the book. And so it was just about selling the book, reaching folks, people loving the book, whoever loves it. And eventually, I would like to get some book prizes, but if I don't, it's not a big deal. I feel like my book is already a success right now. Like, I've achieved what it is. And so I'm currently in the process of kind of expanding what success looks like moving forward. And I wanted to be taught in college campuses as well. So that's something that started happening the same semester that the book came out. It's already been taught at university.
So you had that idea. I'm just wondering though, you said you didn't have a specific number. Like you said, you wanted to go into a second printing and you achieved that before the book even came out, which, hello, let's give a little round of applause for that. But as far as like it reaching its readers, like, did you have any benchmarks? Was it, I want to see reviews on Goodreads, or was it just people telling you? Like, how were you going to know you had achieved what you wanted?
Yes, reviews. I did want reviews, like full-length reviews at different outlets. I wanted at least a couple of those. I did want people to write reviews for them, whether it's on a book retailer or a Goodreads or Storygraph is the new one. Yeah, that was part of the success too, actually. What else? Oh, libraries. Yes, that was part of it. It's so many things, but it wasn't, so it's all these things, but not specific numbers necessarily. Because I feel like, I think for poetry, I don't know about others, I just thought focusing on numbers so much might be limiting for me. You can't really control numbers per se, but especially if you're with a small publisher. So there was like things like, oh, I want my book to be in libraries. Right now it's in 47 libraries and counting. And I heard that it's going to be in the New York Public Library because my sister requested it the other day and they told her, oh, it's on the way. So that was success for me for it to end up in libraries. no specific number, but I wanted it to be in libraries because that's how I discovered books, So just things like that. I feel like, yeah, that's it.
And those are all, again, when people are thinking about, marketing their book, defining success is really important. And as Nadia said, it's going to change along the way, obviously. But if you just go into it like, oh, I want my book to be a success, what does that mean? You might achieve certain things and not even celebrate them or feel the success because you didn't define it. So, like going into a second printing, that's a huge success. First of all, that's commitment from your publisher. It means that so many people are buying it that they have to print more. That to me is more important than, let's say, like a list or even an award, because you get an award and the only person that read the book was the judge, right? For the thing. But a second printing, a third printing, that means that, again, so many people are reading it that the publisher has made the decision that they need to print more. Because let's be clear, the publisher could decide they don't care enough, or projecting they don't see it worth their while. These are real things. So on second printing, subsequent printings really signify that there's an audience and that the publisher believes in it. Those two things don't necessarily have to happen. So that is a big deal. And I just want to, again, also connect with what you said about libraries. What you want ultimately is for your book to be read. I mean, the sales are good, but ultimately you want it to be read, because if somebody reads it, maybe when they're 18 and don't have money and they read it in a library, 2 years from now when they have a job, they're like, I love Nadia Alexis. Oh, she has a new book out. Now I'm going to buy it. Like, that's how you create fans, is them reading your book. And if they can access it, even if they don't have money, that's the win right there. Because what we're doing with book promotion is planting seeds for future growth. So I love those ideas. So now let's get into the nitty gritty. I looked at your list of events and I saw that you had events from January before the book even came out in March and all the way through December of 2025. So 12 months. And listen, people, there is literally an event in every single month, at least one, most months more than one. So Nadia, how did you go about actually planning this book tour? What was your strategy? And then how did you execute the strategy, so to speak?
Yeah, so I had decided that I was going to just have events for this book tour all year. I did not have a specific number. I knew I wanted to have my first event in a place that was meaningful. And so I went back to the town where I went to grad school and did it at the independent bookstore where I used to work and that I still love. And so for me, it was like, well, where do I want to be that feels meaningful? Where do I have community? And so some of the events I planned them, or like I pitched myself, and some things people reached out to me. So my publisher has been, it's a very small and mighty team, but the marketing and communications director told me about, setting things up, but also allowing opportunities to come to you. So don't book yourself so solid that you don't have any room for that. And so I did some of that as well. And I went to a library. I knew I wanted to do an event at a library, at least one library. I'd love to do more. So any bookstores, library, festivals, because people love books that go to book festivals, Black reading series, Lamp Black. So just like things like, where might my audience be? People that may know me and then people that may not know me. And I actually did my New York City launch right around my birthday. So the New York launch had to be very meaningful. So I connected it to that. So it was just kind of like a combination of, where might my audience be, or what are my connection to these people, these communities? So I did in person and virtual events. So it was very heavy in March 2025 when the book came out. I did not necessarily plan it that way, 'cause some of those opportunities came to me, and it was kind of heavy in April. So I think for me, it was like, say yes to the opportunities that come to you if you can do them and it can fit in your schedule. And I said yes to a lot.
I think that two things I want to just get out of the way quickly. Do you have a full-time job? Were you doing all of this along with a job?
I do have a full-time job. I am a teacher at an arts high school. I'm also the head of the department at that school, and it's 11th and 12th grade. It's very small, but yes, I do have a full-time job nurturing other writers.
Did you take time off or did you have to do all your events on the weekends and school breaks? How did you plan your time?
I did take some time off, and my job was very supportive of me. And when they found out my book was going to be out and that I would be touring, they let me know that whatever dates I need to take off, let them know, and just send them the dates in advance. So that's what I did because I had them. And there's even professional development days that I was able to do for like an unpaid opportunity. So, it's a school of artists. So they want the teachers to be active in their fields. So they're very excited about me having a book. So it would be odd if they didn't support. And they've been very supportive of me. It won't be like it was before with all the events, in the spring, but yes, I'm able to take time off.
And then another thing I just wanted to ask quickly was how did you prepare mentally to put yourself out there, to pitch yourself to different bookstores and organizations, and particularly for a poetry book, which again, people do libraries, bookstores, book festivals, etc. But a lot of times people aren't aware or they just don't have the same enthusiasm for poetry books in terms of like a mainstream, like a book event, like at a bookstore, for example. So can you tell people like what was your mental kind of self-talk to allow yourself to pitch yourself? Because that can be the part that people they just can't do it. They just shy away from it. They're embarrassed or they think people won't care. They're not a big name. So please share what your kind of, your mental self-talk or mental preparation for doing this.
For me, it's like, I put this book out and it's a good book. So I'm like, you know, it would be a mutually beneficial thing if I did an event at certain bookstores. So for me, I just believed that I had the right to ask folks that. But I think in order to make it more easeful for myself, I reached out to bookstores that I thought would be open to having my kind of book. And I didn't get a response from a couple of them. Even a woman of color owned bookstore, which that kind of hurt my feelings in that instance. Of course, I think that wouldn't be the norm reaction, but that was like a awakening for me. But I got more yeses than ignored emails. I got two ignored emails or no follow-up on the second one. So I'm like, what kind of events do they have? Like I had an event in Boston at a bookstore in Boston. They have a poetry reading series. So it's like going where, what's the expression again? Go where you're celebrated. Right. So I'm like, okay, they have a poetry reading series. I pitched myself. We found a date later on that would work. And yeah, that's what I did. It was just to make it more easeful. I'm like, what kind of events do they have? Like, what kind of books do they have on their shelves? And would they want to have someone like me? And more often than not, the answer was yes. And it was a matter of scheduling. And so I think it's make your life easier by going where they seem to be open to you. And if they don't respond, you just keep it moving. It's not personal. Especially, it can be kind of tricky if you've never been to the bookstore. So they can be factoring that in as well. So there's a lot of things.
These are such good tips right here. Go where, if you have a poetry book, look for bookstores that have poetry groups, poetry circles. And that could be the same thing. If you're writing romantic fantasy, there's so many bookstores that have their own internal book clubs around specific issues or genres. So it's a great point is to look for the places that actually you don't have to reinvent the wheel for them or really deeply explain that, yeah, there's people who like poetry out in the world. So great tip right there. Was there anything that happened during any of your events that led you to realize, oh, I might add this to my list of places or things that I might try that were originally not on your list?
I would say the first thing that comes to mind is when I was on a panel in March 2025 at MIT. And it was like a grad student conference. And being on that panel and showing some of my photographic work from the book and talking about my poetry and poetry book and practice, it was very interesting for me. It was very well received. And I was like, I already knew that I wanted to be in colleges and universities, but it kind of expanded in terms of what that could look like and how I could just use what I have, use what I'm good at, what is a selling point for my book is that it's hybrid. And I have a visit coming up at a small college where I'm going to have a small exhibit. I'm going to read some of my poems. I'm going to lead a creative workshop, mostly creative writing, but it'll incorporate photography and poetry and all in one visit. And I'm being paid very well for it. And I'm like, oh, I can offer this and like reach even more people. And I want to give you another answer. I did a talk for a visual art class at the Milwaukee Institute of Art and Design. And the teacher, she had them writing poems and looking at a couple poems as part of their visual art practice. And she had me come out there, well, on virtual, and do an artist talk for them and answer some questions. And I gave them some writing prompts. And I was like, oh, that was probably one of the biggest ones. Like, oh, I need to be pitching myself to these art schools. Like, it's kind of hard to find out who's open to that kind of thing. But that wasn't something that I ever thought about. Actually, that would probably be the biggest thing. Being at a visual arts school and being like, oh, I could do this more. And they want to
Yes.
hear from me. So, yeah.
All right, Milwaukee, my hometown, bringing in the poet. That's great. I'm wondering if you had any role models that you were looking to. You saw their successful book tours or part of their book tours that gave you kind of courage, and or you were like, oh, I saw them at this store, I'm going to go there, or I saw the way they did X, Y, or Z. Just curious if you had somebody you were modeling after.
I wouldn't say that there was one particular person that I was modeling after. I was in a publicity incubator program in 2024 in the spring. So I learned a lot about book publicity things through that program. And the marketing communications director at my publisher is a poet as well and promoted his own book. So I would look at different people and see, oh, what did they do that I like? Because I don't know that I've seen any poet like me who was doing what I've been doing this year in terms of promotion. And that's not to big myself up like I'm the only one doing this. It just may be, who I might be connected to. People do different things here and there, but I piece things together from different inspiration or what I learned in that program. So there's not one particular person, no.
But that's smart. You look at everybody who's winning and you pick the parts that you can pull from their winning formula that are applicable to you. So I want to talk again a little bit about the specifics of how good you have done this. People, when you have a chance, I mean, you can do it now if you're listening and you have your phone in front of you, is you need to go look at Nadia's website, because what she has done is taken the guesswork of how you can bring her and her book into your school, into your bookstore, into your library. She has given you a full press kit. She has given teachers, she literally said, bring me into your classroom. Here's what I can teach. Here's what I can talk about. Here's a curriculum. Like, she's made it so easy for people to figure out how they can bring her and the book into their world. And I just want to ask, how long did that take you, Nadia? And why did you put so much effort into the website? Because let me tell you, I have been so irritated. People who I've wanted to bring just on the podcast, and I can't even find like a simple bio that's been like updated. And you have multiple bios. Again, all the different ways that people can find you, bring you in, questions. I mean, everything is there. So talk about that planning and the production of that website. Did you do it yourself? Did you have somebody else do it? Give us the nitty-gritty on that.
It's a Squarespace website, so I did it myself. And I did get some feedback from the marketing communications director early on my website, how I had it set up. I got feedback during the publicity incubator, just very little bit in terms of the homepage, very impactful. And I also, like Patrice Goppo, I'm not sure if I'm saying her name right. She has like a page on her website, like promo related. So I took some inspiration from her as well.
Shout out
That was much,
Patrice.
yes, that was in terms of editing it because I don't think I had met her yet by then when I first was making it look much better. One of the things that I will never forget is it was like a tweet or something from Roxane Gay, and she was like, authors, you need to make it easy for people to reach out to you. Like these contact forms or not having your contact information, just put your email on there. And so that's something that I've always thought of. And so I want to make it easy for people to support me. So that's why I have all of that there. I even have a support the book page where I list, order my book at the library, invite me to your book club, invite me to your classroom, all the things that you were mentioning. The media kit, Cynthia Manick is a poet who I admire, and she has a media kit, and I saw that and I was like, oh, I need to make one. And Dennis Smith has one too that I saw, an older one. So I made my own. It's quite long compared to theirs, but I just wanted it to work for multiple audiences. So that's why I have it that long. So it's like make it easy for people to support me or to see where I fit. I have like a page on my website where I'm like, think about me for these months, like Caribbean American Heritage Month, or it took a while. I didn't do it all in one sitting, but if I do the hours, like it took some hours. The media kit especially took a lot of time. And I'm really grateful that I put that in there. But I also did use Canva to help. So I didn't have to start from scratch. But yes, I want to make it easy for people. I'm going to make it easy for myself to receive all the abundance and blessings and make it easy for people to support me.
I just love the way you said that. I want to make it easy for people to support me because a lot of times people do and they don't know how. I mean, that's just the reality. And then there's people like me, a podcaster, a blogger, a journalist who would just like to get some basic information so we can write about you or do whatever. And it's too hard to find the basic information. And I just thought, like you were just talking about the listing of here's where you might talk about me. And you make a list of all of the months and events that are kind of happen throughout the year that journalists always need. They need a news hook. Oh, it's Caribbean Heritage Month. It's Black History Month. It's Poetry Month. You do the thinking. So again, you make it easy for people to support you. So very smart. Again, if you guys want an A+ in creating that kind of a website, go look at Nadia's website. Of course, I'll put links in the show notes. So what impact do you think this first tour will have on your future writing career? Do you think it's setting you up well for the next book or for another whole year of touring, a different teaching gig? Like, what do you think the impact is going to be and what do you hope it's going to be?
I think it will invite more opportunities for me and allow my book to reach more readers. I think I'm setting a good foundation for my literary career. Also, learning what worked and what I would maybe do differently. So I would say yes. Some of it has been a lot of work, and I feel like it's energy well spent so that I don't have to reinvent certain things as I keep going. And you only get one debut. And that's part of why you have to be happy with what you put out, and your book deserves your energy, your belief in it. And so that's what I want to carry with the rest of my books, just in different ways, whatever it is in that season.
So obviously, there's different points of success. And we talked about going into second printing, but I think one of the most amazing mentions of success was the fact that you ran into your book in an airport and then other airports. And for people who don't know, getting a book into an airport bookstore is huge. Like many times publishers pay a lot of money to get their authors in the bookstores in the airports, and or the book just has to be such a bestseller that it's just guaranteed that the bookstores in the airports want it. And that reason is because a airport buyer is a buyer who's probably going to read that book. So airport bookstores are like hotbeds for sales. So you want your book in an airport. So tell us, Nadia, how did you get your book in airport bookstores?
I didn't make the request to anyone. I texted my publisher as soon as that happened, and they were so excited. And they immediately said, this is a testament to your work, all the work that you've been doing to promote the book. They said this is the first time this has happened for a new author, for a debut author of theirs. And so I was like, oh, wow. So I'm kind of doing something like setting record for them. It's really like the promotion. I mean, I really, only God knows exactly how I ended up, because they don't even really know exactly how I ended up in there other than they connected it to my promotion. So that's the story I'm telling, but also I had the desire, not from any early point, because I didn't even imagine that for a poetry book, a first poetry book. And then I was in an airport bookstore and I was looking at them, they had a poetry section. And I was like, oh, I want my book to be on this shelf. And it was. And I was just like, I could not, I hadn't thought about it before that moment. And the fact that it was like right there when I walked in there, I was like, oh, I would love my book to be on this shelf. And it was there. And I was like, oh, that means this can happen again. And for me, that's connected to my desire to have the book reach readers, right? And end up in different places. And so I think without realizing it, I kind of like manifested it. But I think sometimes you don't need a very specific, like, oh, I want to have this XYZ thing. And you might be surprised in that big way. So it's in multiple airport bookstores. It's in an airport bookstore in New York and Nashville and Chicago and one other one that I'm forgetting right now. And I'm just like, when I texted my publisher about the second one, they were like, yo, this is the real deal. And I was like, yes, it is. So now my mission is like when I'm in the airport, I'm going to look for it and I sign it. So, yeah, I'm just getting excited thinking about it because it was such a dream come true, a dream I didn't even know that I had.
I am so happy for you, Nadia. That is so exciting. Again, that's testament to the work that you've done, especially if your publisher is acknowledging that. So, what advice would you give, Nadia, to the emerging poet who does have a collection that maybe is close to coming out? What would you give them as advice in terms of figuring out how to get their book out into the world where it's going to be well received?
Come to it with an abundance mindset. I think so often when we talk about poetry, it's like, oh, poetry books don't sell. And it's like, well, they do sell in a different kind of way. So coming to it with a positive mindset is, I think, key. And tapping into the community that you do have. So a lot of my book buyers are people that I knew. And I think that that's important as well. Like a lot of my early book buyers, so, how might you connect with, tap into your community, study the people that are promoting their books well, see what would work for you, apply for that incubator program. Everyone doesn't get into it, so it's competitive, but it's still worth a shot. I like to approach promotion from a creative standpoint. I started to see it as a creative endeavor. And for me, that made it, I just love it. It's fun for me. But find some type of joy or way of seeing it that will make it enjoyable or, for some people bearable. But I think having a positive abundance mindset about it and defining what success looks like for you, like you asked that question earlier, is really important because it doesn't have to be certain things. It's whatever it is that works for you. And there's so many things I could say, but I'm gonna stop there.
Thank you. That's all really, really good. You said just now that, you wanted to get your book into the hands of readers and that you started with your own community. You're not saying only people who know me bought my books, but can you just explore a little bit? Is that where you started from? Is that how you build momentum for the book? Like, how do you think about how it gets beyond your friends and family?
I think the beyond friends and family thing would be more so social media and like meeting people in person. I did promotion by meeting people in person, maybe sharing my work. I mentioned that a lot of my early book buyers were people that I knew, and I felt like how I reached them was through email. I had their emails already, and so I already had community established before. So I think that that helped me in terms of getting my foot off the ground and in terms of meeting other people or reaching other people is through other outlets like social media and in person and just like genuine connection, not just like Oh, I'm trying to sell my book. I'm trying to sell my book. Like, yes, I am, but I can do that in indirect ways or teaching workshops. The students will look you up, and I was promoting myself without promoting myself. There's so many ways to do that and get book sales. And so it was kind of just thinking bigger there in terms of how can I reach folks. I participated in certain awareness months like Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month. I'm gearing up to do a little bit of activity related to Domestic Violence Awareness Month in October, or actually I'm in the midst of that by the time this episode comes out. So just kind of, being smart about where those people might be. And a lot of people have bought my book that I don't even know how they bought it. And they're leaving reviews, people I don't know.
So it's spreading. Yeah. And I just wanted to point that out that, starting with your own community and being real about the techniques, an email to the people who and a lot more people than you think but starting with the people is obviously the best way to start this process because, that's what the idea of social media is, right? That the people in your social network, each one person knows 5 other people and it spreads like that. And then also those people can also tell you about people they know that they think might appreciate your book. But also I like what you said about not just trying to sell the book, but it's you that you need people to kind of buy into. So if you are at the domestic violence awareness event and you happen to have a book and people appreciate whatever you were talking about or handing out balloons or whatever it is, because that's the reality. You can make connections if you're in front of other people. So now I just realized that we didn't even talk about social media. And I don't want to get into everything about social media, but maybe the question is simply, where would you say social media fit into this overall campaign that you launched?
It was a big important. Now, what I did learn, emails are very important too. Like you can sell books easier on email in some instances. So I will say that. But social media is also very important because that's where people stay connected to you. That's how new people find you. That's how people fall in love with you. Like I have people that have literally commented on my post or DM me like, "Oh, I love your post," or I'm like, "I love you," like like things like that. It's so interesting just to show up as yourself. So my posts are a combination of promo, but also I like to show just me out supporting other writers or me out like outside coloring. And that to me is part of the promo, believe it or not, in that I'm allowing people to get to know me or where they can catch me, telling stories through my posts. My audience responds very well to story, especially inspirational. People come to me partly for that, whether they say it or not. Some people will be vocal about it and some people not so much. They might like a post or something like that. So I don't know. I can control social media and how I appear on there. And it's sort of an extension of my website. That's how I see it in that way. It just is in a different capacity. And you have to post things over and over. It might feel like, oh, am I like bothering these people? They didn't even see it. Only some people saw it. So post it again. So I had to get even more comfortable with that. But I did certain things to prepare me for this. I've been coached by different kinds of folks. I was in a community of ambitious Black women, and I was in a life coaching program through that. And we had to just do certain things to put ourselves out there. Like I've poured into myself in a lot of ways to allow myself to show up on social media the way that I do. And that even in my promo, my insistence to promote is partly informed by some coaching programs that I've been in, not directly related to this, but or watching people that I admire that aren't writers, but they have like a coaching business and they post about it. And I'm like, what can I take? So I'm learning from all kind of people and implementing that in my social media. And if something didn't work, I just don't do it again, or I try it again. When something does work, I do it again. So it's a lot of trial and error.
I hope everybody heard that. Taking what works, not taking it personally when it doesn't, getting coaching or, taking classes even, because the marketing of the book is just as much, if not more effort than the writing of the book. If you're a writer, hopefully the writing was fun. It was enjoyable. It was more ease because this is what you're good at. Social media, the promotion, that's harder. So what platforms did you most enjoy working on, or did you felt were the most writers or people who are interested in your work were?
I use Instagram and Threads a lot. Those are the ones. I did a little bit on Twitter when it was Twitter and when it was X as well. It's X now, but that wasn't necessarily my favorite platform. It was just changing. So Instagram, Threads, and Facebook are my main places, and I enjoy IG and Threads the most. Threads, because of the algorithm, you kind of find posts. People are like looking for Black authors to share their links to their books, and I was doing that multiple days a week. And I'm sure I got at least some book sales from that. And I actually ended up on some lists. So, those are the platforms where it seems like my people are. So that's where I'm at.
Nadia, this has been so wonderful. You've given so many great ideas, tips, strategies, and obviously you're a poet, but most of these ideas are great for anybody who has a book coming out in the 21st century. So thank you so much for sharing. Remind people if they do want to purchase your book and or follow you somewhere on the interwebs where they can do that.
They can go to my website, NadiaAlexis.com. I have my social links there and links to purchase the book. My name on Instagram is Nadia Loves to Create, and that's what it is on Threads as well.
Thank you so much, Nadia, and we wish you so much luck in the continuous success of this book. The next time I'm flying somewhere in the United States, I'm going to stop at the airport and see if they have your book.
Let me know. Thank you.
Okay, you guys, wasn't that a great interview? I honestly could have kept talking to Nadia forever. I really learned so much, and I hope you did too. And I hope you feel inspired and motivated to do the most for your next or first book launch. Here are some key takeaways that I hope you can use for your famous author era. Number 1. Define what success looks like before you start planning your book promotion efforts. And remember, your definition of success can change along the way. Number 2, make it super easy for people to support you. Create a user-friendly website and a comprehensive media kit. Give people ideas on how they can bring you and or your book into their world. Number 3, getting your book into libraries and schools is an excellent strategy to build your fan base and make more people aware of your book. Librarians and teachers can be your best book promoters. And number 4, study what other authors are doing for promotion and use the best parts for your own book promotion efforts. If you'd like to find out more about Nadia, you can find links to her very well-resourced website in the show notes. Speaking of show notes, in the show notes, you can also find the link to the Read, Write, and Create website, your one-stop shop for inspiration and information to optimize your literary life. On the website, you can sign up for the Read, Write, and Create newsletter. You can find links to our social media handles and my new YouTube channel at Literary Lori. And of course, you can learn more about our amazing community for BIPOC women writers that Nadia is a member of, The Sanctuary. Everything we offer as a brand at Read, Write, and Create is done in service to BIPOC writers just like you. So check out the articles on the website, the inspiring resources we serve up in our newsletter once a month, and all of the opportunities we share on our Instagram account. It's all for you, boo. So please check it out. Don't forget, the doors will be opening to the Sanctuary at the end of November, so make sure you get on the wait list to be the first to find out when we start taking applications. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention that if you would like to make a financial donation to help support this podcast, you can do so by buying me a virtual coffee. The link is in the show notes where you can donate. And if monetary donation is not possible in these tough times, you can do something that's just as meaningful, if not more, and that is to share this episode with another BIPOC writer who could use a pep talk or who is trying to launch their own famous author era. Thank you. The Your BIPOC Writing Coach podcast is written and produced by me, Lori L. Tharps. Our editor is Brad Linder, and our theme music is by Wataboy. Until next week, writers, keep writing. The world needs more BIPOC stories written by BIPOC storytellers just like you.